So my name is Jan Bezouska. I'm from Prague, from Czech Republic. I've been in the US for the last 16 years. Um, I always wanted to live in the United States, since I was little. It was my dream, and I always wanted to work in movies, and I was really passionate about sound. So it's pretty much it, that's why I'm here. That's why we're talking, I was just following my passion, I was following the dream, and here we are.
Right on, Jan. Right on. And so when you were a kid, what was it that when you knew, what was it that inspired you, or when was the moment that you knew that you wanted to pursue a career in sound?
I don't think there was really a defining moment, but it was small things, for some reason, I was always recording things, listening things, kind of compiling things, it was tapes, then mini discs, then CDs, I would always record stuff, and it wasn't that I would record songs, or I would do that as well, but I would just continuously record different toilet flushing, some atmospheres, doors, weird sounding stuff, and then started manipulating. I didn't really know why, there was never a purpose. And then, my dad is a screenwriter and my mom's an actress. And when I was around 16, they saw what I was doing, and they were like, hey, you can go to school for that, and you can work in movies. And then it clicked, right? And then I got in, and I did my undergrad in Czech Republic. It was, especially the first semester, I was so blown away because everything that we were learning and everything we were doing, it was exactly what I would dream of doing. Was everything made so much sense. And yeah, that's basically, so it didn't really click, but I just slowly exactly what I wanted to do, and that's what I'm still doing. 20 years later.
That's awesome, Jan. That's awesome. So your parents, they were involved in the industry all over the world, or specifically there in your home country?
In there, it's very isolated. There's my dad's a writer, my mom's an actress, so the language is a thing. So you basically work within Europe. And obviously when they were growing and when they were my age, we were still under the communist regime, so there was not a lot of reach abroad. But yeah, I come from, everyone in my family is pretty much, my grandma is an opera singer, my grandpa was an actor, there was another grandma was a painter, so I guess we're an artistic family, can say.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. So then it wasn't a movie that inspired you. It was your parents ultimately seeing
Not
your
not
curiosity.
really, not really. There was Amadeus was a big one, was a big influence because the Czech
Oh,
director was very sound heavy, sound oriented, it was a lot of music, and that was something that was really inspiring. That was when I was applying to school, there was a movie that I tried to dissect a little bit more. And I still love that film. Then Matrix was a big one, when you're realizing what they were doing with sound. And I'm still discovering really interesting things about that specific movie. But no, it was pretty. I don't have this beautiful romantic story that I've seen something. It was a moment of realization, it was just very, very natural. It was just like
yeah.
it was meant to be,
That's awesome. That's awesome. And kudos to your parents too for being able to discover your curiosity and
Oh,
giving you
absolutely.
some pointers. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's crazy. I mean, yeah, I mean, exactly that they were able to see that and recognize that, and they always gave me so much freedom. They were not pushing me anything. And they had no idea. They don't, I honestly, they told me I can do that, but they still don't really know what I'm doing. Meaning, the sound design process, and the sound designing and editing and mixing, no one really knows what we're doing. Even some of the producers that I've been working with, they still don't really know because it's so behind the scenes, so subjective, it's a lot going on. So my parents barely know what exactly I'm doing, and what's my
Mhm.
what the path is, but they still were able to recognize, and show me the path, which was really, really beautiful.
Yeah, no, that's really beautiful, Jan. That's really beautiful. And
Mhm.
and so you discover and you kind of go off. So you went to in high school. Tell me a little bit about high school there. Is high school have any media arts programs, or it wasn't until college that you actually went into a media art program and started studying
Um,
the craft?
no, high school, it's a general education. They're basically the educational system in Czech is a little different, but they basically, you either go to trade school from 13 to 18, or you go to regular high school. That's the idea is that's prepping you for college and university. So I went that way, that pathway, and so it's general education, and I wasn't focused on arts. I would, since my grandma was an opera singer, I would play piano with her a little bit. I would have guitar lessons, would play flute, and I was in choir, but I was never really into. I was never really like too musical, or I never wanted to have a career in music. Although I was really interested, I'm still very interested in music. But yeah, no, the sound was always kind of there. I just really wasn't sure what it is. But all these things that I was doing was really helped me, and helped me there. And I was, especially when you're designing things, all these musical things or some musical theory really helps, to orient in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see that. What tool were you using as a kid when you mentioned that you're recording sounds? What tool did you use?
I mean, started with tape, regular cassette tape, just built-in microphones. And then, my parents, I think it was around 12, 13. My dad, for some reason, gave me a mini disc, which I really wanted. That was, this thing that's really specific for a couple of years and came to a dead end, but it was a digital recording. So then I had a bunch of microphones, that I would be using for specific recordings.
Oh, wow.
And that was a big one, because you instantly have digital recording. It was beautiful quality, the noise levels were really low. And I remember there's a bunch of minis that you would have catalogs, which I guess the closest thing I can compare to some music library,
Mhm.
and recording atmospheres, in forest, somewhere by our summer house, just weird random sounds, flushing of toilets, doors, some trying to get some dogs, and then processing things, everything which is sounding interesting. But again, there was never really a purpose, for that. It just the fact that I'm listening and I the idea that I can capture something, then I can listen to it again,
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Have you ever seen the movie Blowout by Brian De Palma?
Yes, of course, of course.
Yeah, I kind of visualize you being this person, right? Although that film is kind of sad. It's very sad at the end.
Yeah, yeah, I love it though. It's a great movie.
Oh yeah, Brian De Palma's great. Brian De Palma's great. Could you have seen yourself being a sound person with that tech back then? Because I think I was in the 70s. It's all tape, it's all analog, and the
Of
process
course.
is completely different.
Of course, absolutely. Whatever it takes. Same with Conversation, the couple movie, and just those reels, of tapes, and mags. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's way easier now because I'm getting insane recordings on my iPhone, right? It's
Mm.
like, but no, whatever the technology, yeah, I would absolutely do it.
That's cool. So you get through high school, and then you decide to choose to go to college, and there you went to film school there in the Czech Republic.
Yes, yeah, and that's the system of the film school in Czech. It's the conservatory type, which was the first one in I hope I'm not wrong, but I think it was the first conservatory in the world, meaning that you choose the path. And that's why you when you go to USC, you start, kind of general. You have to do everything. You have to direct, you have to DP, you have to edit, you have to design your things. But in Czech, the system is that basically you have to commit from the very beginning, to the path that you're going to take. So you decide if go to cinematography, sound and directing. And I chose the sound from the very beginning. So I already have undergrad degree from sound.
Oh wow, okay. And then so what did that look there? What kind of classes was it? Was it mainly, it wasn't theoretical, or did you touch a little bit of theory? It was
Yeah.
mainly
Well, you take the art classes, the history of cinema, art history with other students, and then you divide, to basically, I don't even remember what exactly. I mean, just it's like beginning sound, intermediate. We would talk about microphone recordings going on set, how to deal with stuff, how to mic person, being really focused on the production side of it, capturing it, then going into post-production, in terms of designing, cleaning dialogue, Foley, the sound editing, and then the actual mixing and the delivery, in terms of format. So there's, and especially in Europe, there's still very common, that the person who's recording the movie is doing the post-production as well.
Oh, wow.
Which is, it's still common, it's still, you can see movies that are being recorded to the same person who did the final mix, which is in Hollywood, it's basically that's never happens. It's so divided, and the departments are very segregated in a way. But in Europe, when I would take classes, my professors, who would do Oscar-winning foreign films, which was my biggest mentor was Zbigniew Mikulik, who was basically, his movie Kolia won Best Picture, I think in '96 or something, for foreign film. He did the production sound as well as the design, as well as cleaning of the dialogue, full final mix, full package, right? So which is really good, obviously, to know everything from A to Z. As much as I don't do that, and I've done it, there's been feature films that I've done this from A to Z, even in the US, there's been feature films that I've done the whole process, and I'm still obviously like benefiting from that, because it makes you better, it makes you understand, better the whole process, and I'm really grateful, that I was able to do that. Now I don't see myself going ever back on set, and I kind of, I'm past that, and I would have to learn the technology, and things changed a lot, and I'm also not really interested in the production side of the sound. But it's really good. I'm really glad that I went through that route, and now I'm just basically in the post-production.
Right. And if you were to stayed over there, do you think you would have kind of probably been doing all of it? Because that's just the model.
I still no, I wouldn't. I would be in, because there are already people who are just focusing either on production or post-production. So I know that I would stick in post. I think that what would be the difference is that I would have to do more things in Czech. I would probably have to focus on dialogue, more cleaning dialogue, doing dialogue editing, ADR, and even adding Foley, and just doing all that. As much as now, I'm just not doing any of that. I'm outsourcing all these things, and I'm basically focusing on supervising some sound design and mixing. I'm really, since there's a lot of projects, and there's just things that I'm interested more and less. I was never really that interested in dialogue too much, and I'm working with amazing people who are incredible at their job. So for me, it's rather I'll do dialogue with somebody who is just amazing and perfected, the craft. For example, when I'm working with Foley artists, I'm doing it majority, I'm working with people in Czech Republic, in Prague, or people in Poland who are amazing in their craft, and it's just such a pleasure to get something that's much better that I would ever be able to do myself. And then I can really focus what I'm interested in, which is the design and the mixing.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I feel now with technology changing, particularly even more so with AI, keeping people compartmentalized to master their craft is a wonderful thing.
Yes.
And I just feel nowadays, even as a producer, I see people wanting people to do much more, and they're not even qualified to do it, but they're still asking them to do it. Oh, it'll be all right. Here's the tool, go do it. But to your point, having somebody who's an expert in that, the quality is so superior.
It's such a pleasure, I could do it all myself, right? But it wouldn't bring a lot of joy to my life, and it really brings me a lot of joy to get, let's say, if I get Foley session, from a team that's doing just Foley, and I see, how rich, how there's so many details, things that I wouldn't think of, and it's just, it makes me shine, it makes me look better, it makes me sound better. But that's the idea. That's if you're a good director, you bring the best team, you bring best cinematographer, best editor. That's what makes you a good director, and that's how I'm trying to treat supervising. I'm trying to bring the best team, and so far it's been working well, and it's so nice, that to see, see the ideas that three people bringing to the table, when I'm working with sound effects editors. I love when people just surprise me with stuff that I would never think of. That's part of the process that makes me really happy.
Yeah, that's cool. And so you go from high school to college, and then you go through college, you go through the whole program there in sound. What was the next step from there? Did you just go to you decide to go abroad, or?
Yeah, well, I was really lucky because my undergrad program in Czech Republic, there was not master's program yet. They were opening a master's program the year after my graduation, and I didn't really want to wait. And I always knew that I wanted to go to US. It was my dream to study in the United States. And for some reason, while I was graduating, there was someone from the US visiting my film school, and they offered an exchange program between my undergrad, and they offered basically a master's program in media studies program, which was not a full-on film school, but it was, I was able to take film classes. It was at West Virginia State University, in Charleston, West Virginia. So I was able to basically, and I love the idea. I wanted to go to US, and I got this offer as, okay, perfect. So I went to West Virginia State, where I went to when I went for masters, when I finished my masters, where I was working as an assistant. It was my first step in the United States. I was able, I pivoted from sound because there was no sound classes. I actually ended up at the end teach sound class there.
Oh, wow.
For the undergrad program, which was great, which was also something that I then, I started teaching, and it was the first time I was able to, talk about sound, to other students, which ultimately really helps you define some ideas, for a career and etc. But so I did 2.5 years in West Virginia, and while I was there, I learned about USC, and I knew that I really thought that I wanted to go to NYU because that was the school that I knew about in terms of films. And I went to see NYU over spring break. I watched some of their thesis films, but when I talked to the students, I realized that they don't really have a specific sound program, and that was kind of a deal breaker because I did want to go back to sound. And when I did my research, I realized that there's just one school where all my favorite sound designers went to, and it was USC. Basically, I flew to California, for the summer. After that, I came to campus, I took the tour. Obviously, like, loved it. It's very impressive, to coming from Czech and West Virginia to see the USC campus. I really like LA. And then I talked to some people, I met Mitch Costin, who was the head of sound there. I met some other professors who were really kind to me, and I applied, and I got in.
Wow. That's really cool. So your English, how was your English? Did you learn English in Czech before you?
Yeah. I mean, I was born during communism, and when I was 4, the wall went down. So when I was in kindergarten, my parents were really pushing me to learn English, and because they were not able to do that, they had to learn Russian, and they spoke some German, but they understood that English is key. So then I went to language school, elementary school, and I was pretty good. But then when I moved to the US, I realized that I was horrible because it's very different, when you speak with this British English, to people that are actually not English or American, so it just kind of works, when you talk to each other. But when you get confronted with someone in West Virginia, they didn't know what I'm talking about. I didn't understand, the thick accent, and it really took me some time. I still have a really good friend of mine who was my first American friend when I moved to West Virginia. He told me, and supposedly he's got the tape of me, that it was first couple of months, it was pretty bad, and I thought that was good, right? I had always had good grades in English, but it was pretty bad. So, but it takes, I was fairly young. I was 23 when I moved to the US. When you're that young, it goes pretty fast. And my English, I think I needed a year to be solid, and be able to communicate fairly well in order to really express myself properly, and now it's tough because I'm in a position that in terms of my filmmaking jargon, and expressing myself, when it comes to films, I think my vocabulary is so much better in English, but my heart and my emotions might be still better in Czech, so it's a weird mix. And so it's the sometimes, when I'm in Czech, I feel I hope I can speak in English and express some things in English. And when I'm in here, I wish I can still express some things in Czech. But no, but it's great, to yeah, I feel comfortable in both languages.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even them hiring you as a teacher afterwards speaks to how quickly you learned and able to articulate yourself in English.
Yeah, I guess, or they were just very tolerant. That's the other option.
Okay, so you went to that school there to get for your master's, but it was
Mhm.
mainly, you said it was mainly more focused on media studies, but you kind of saw it as an opportunity to get to the US,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then from there, that's when you're okay. Next, after doing your research, all the sound legends that you studied, and who are some of these legendary sound
I mean,
designers?
it was Walter Murch, was the person who defined, the term sound design, which is, I think, and I hope I'm not wrong, but I think that the first time when term sound designer or sound design was used in movies was after Walter Murch designed the sound for Apocalypse Now, which might have been, which to me it's absolutely redefining moment, for the actual sound design and sound in movies, because of so many things that he established in that film. And also I heard it had to do something with the unions, that he could have, he was, because I think he was the picture editor as well, and he could have been credited as a sound engineer or whatever the credit was. So they had to pin a different credit for him, and he just chose sound designer, which obviously became such a dominant thing, and it's just such a great term, for what we do. So Walter Murch was a big one. I mean, Gary Rydstrom, who's doing all the Spielberg movies, and it's just direct as well. Sometimes Ben Burt, those people are really the sound designers that I really look up to.
Yeah.
And I, yeah, they are my heroes, and I still look up to them very much.
How did you discover them? Did you read a book about them, or do you just watch the movie and you recognize the talent with Apocalypse Now? I mean, obviously Apocalypse
Apocalypse
Now.
Now, yes, that was very obvious to me. When I watched Apocalypse Now, I was, oh my God,
Yeah, definitely.
that was very obvious. And then with Gary Rydstrom, that was because I just Spielberg a lot, and I think that their collaboration was really talked to me for many reasons, because they were not hesitant, to do really powerful things, with sound design and being subtle but very bold, with their ideas. And I think that their collaboration, and also Spielberg with Ben Burt, they did some fantastic things, and Ben Burt obviously with Lucas, in terms of Star Wars, that was a massive collaboration.
Right.
Although I gotta admit, growing up in Czech, I never really lived with Star Wars too much. I'm way more attached to E.T., Jurassic Park, and Close Encounters than Star Wars. So that's why Gary Rydstrom was a big part of this, that made all this more recent, films, starting from Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan. That was a big one. It was a
Saving
big,
Private,
big
yeah.
one. That was a big one in terms of also thinking about POVs, and subjective design and mixing and designing stuff and being realistic and true to the war, and but still being designy. That was something really, really interesting, that I always about them. And then yeah, those are I mean, listen, I try to follow everybody, and I'm really interested, in every single design there. But those guys, when you basically look up your favorite designers and you realize that they all went to the same school, and some of them even in the same era, that was okay. Well, there's going to be something special about the program. There's going to be something special about the school, and they it's not a coincidence, right? They have to be doing something right. And then going to USC, yeah, it is not a coincidence. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So you get into USC and you start the program there. So this is essentially your second master's at this point.
Yes.
And talk to me about that experience. What was it there at USC?
It was my third film school, right? So I was kind of a film school veteran because, and I was, when I started USC, I was 25 or 26 or something. That's fairly older than some of the students, not somewhere in between. There were definitely younger people there. So it was interesting because I felt that I had more experience than majority of the people. And because I was really, especially from Czech, you're classically trained. It's really, I had to be, especially in sound, I thought that I had really, really good knowledge, But then, the school it's really interesting because the first year it's really defined. It really defines everything, your path, and it defines a lot of things that you don't really realize is the first year to USC. The first semester is basically, you work on some short projects, some short films, and you have to collaborate with people, and if I was interested in sound, you still have to direct, you still have to work with actors, you have to write your own material, you have to go to writing classes, you have to study cinematography, everything, editing, which, I don't want to say that I didn't really want to do that, but I was eager to go into sound. And then they throw you into the second semester, which is, I think it's the hardest semester at USC. That's the famous 508 class, in the grad school, when basically they put you with two other people and you build the trio. And first, for example, you direct, write, edit, and the other trio member is doing your production design and cinematography and does a sound design for you and produces, and then you produce and edit for the other trio members, and it's basically within those three, you don't rotate, into positions, and you have no time, no budget, it's extremely stressful, and it's such a lottery. How is your trio going to be, right? And there are some trios that become best friends, and they're still hanging out 10 years later, and they collaborate for the rest of their lives. And there are cases, people that literally collaborate for decades after this class, and there are people that just hate each other to a degree that you cannot imagine, and it's the worst semester of your life, right?
God.
And that's real, and they put, and the class puts a lot of pressure on you. But if you survive this class, with a decent projects, and you don't ruin your reputation, and you actually, prove that you're good with collaborating with people, you're a decent person, and you can work with other filmmakers, that's when the school starts to be really interesting, because reputation is everything, as you know. And if you fail that class, and if you're shitty, or if you're not a good collaborator, no one wants to work with you. But if you make decent movies, if you're mostly, actually, no one really cares about the movies that much. Everyone just cares if you survive and you're still a decent human. being. And if you are able to do that, then the rest of the next 2 years are basically going to be easier than the second semester. And that's what happened. I really started to collaborating with people. I was able, after the first year, I was able to really started taking the sound classes. I would start working on thesis films from people 2 years ahead of me. And I would work. There was a great thing that I did in school, that I would work at the camera department, I would work at the sound department, I would be a student assistant for professors that I look up to, and I was helping like students with sound in classes. And that was a big benefit, I would say, for me while I was in school.
Wow. Wow, that sounds an awesome program.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I was really lucky. I still work with so many friends from school. We're in touch with I mean I just mixed a movie with, I think they actually did it on purpose, but the producer, director, production designer, cinematographer, the editor, my
Wow.
co-mixer, I don't know who else. It was all USC.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and that happens a lot. I still work with people from school. I would say like still majority of my contacts are from USC 10 years after graduating. And I think it's not fading.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
No, it's been a good experience.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from film school that I'm gathered from all the interviews is the network, right? Like,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, yeah, and I think for me here too, for after film school is how can we now make the networks, if we all respect each other from the craft of going to film school, how can we all connect now?
Yes.
Right.
Right.
How can AFI, how can USC, NYU, Chapman, Columbia, how can we all kind of come together and now mix and match with each other?
Yes, exactly.
But okay, cool. So you went to USC, and then so you graduate USC, right? So what does that look? What was that transition? Were you prepared, or how did you get how did you land your first job?
Was not prepared, because there's nothing that prepares you. And when I graduated, I think I was 28, and which is very late. And also, I was student my whole life, and I knew that I wanted to stay in the US, which it's a
Oh yeah.
tricky thing for me to get. The only option is basically either getting married, which unfortunately was not an option for me, because there's no one who would marry me. I was single. And also so there was the O1 path, which is the artistic visa, the extraordinary alien. It's kind of hard to get already, and I really didn't have a lot of credits, so I had basically a year to collect credits and basically start working, because to me, going home was not an option. I came to the US. I knew that I wanted to work in here. That was my dream. I love my country, but I want to work in Hollywood, right? So there was the other option. That was the only option, just working. I was doing some production sound, I was doing some feature films, low, obviously super low budget, I was doing shorts. I would get in some commercials, anything I could do to put together some portfolio and meet people, and have the resume, that I can apply for the visa and being approved, which is tough, because you have even less than 1 year, because you need to, after a couple of months, you need to start applying, for the job, putting together the evidence, why you're the chosen one, to be here and to get the visa, instead of someone who's American, in the same position.
Mhm.
Why are you special? Which is hard when you don't. I didn't have much time to prove, and no one's gonna put you on a big feature right after film school.
Right.
But it obviously it worked out. I was able to work on some projects, that were big enough and did well enough, festivals, and that gave me some cred, and I got some amazing recommendations, from my faculty, members from USC and some people that I work with, and it just worked out, and I got 3 different O1 visas afterwards, and now I'm on a green card.
Hey, well, congratulations! That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's hard work to get up to that point.
yeah.
And yeah, I actually, hearing your story, I can understand maybe a little bit. I have a little more empathy for the process that the government puts you through. But honestly, why would you have people who have invested so much in their education here? You had 2 masters from the United States, and then all of a sudden they give you a very small amount of time and then want to send you back. What are you guys doing? But I'm glad they that you made it. It just shows that your tenacity. I mean, a year is not a lot of time, and you were obviously putting in a lot of work. So how did you get those gigs though? Was it just basically you were out there, hey, anybody need any sound design? You're making a movie, I'll do your sound design, or
it was something was through USC. There were people in school that I went to school. They were ahead, basically, that they were talented, while they were in school. Some of the people in school would get agents, and managers based on their thesis films or whatever. So, and again, I had relationships with them, through all the student films, all the shorts that we were doing together. So, within first year after graduating, I did work on a couple of features, which, because the immigration doesn't really care about shorts, it's not a real product, right, for them, and it's not very relatable. So I did work on features that ended up Sundance, South by, or some major Berlin festivals that were recognized, and that helped me, build the resume. I was doing some commercials that did fairly well. I did some trailers that were for bigger projects, and it just added up. Work with some bigger names, in the industry, and then I got really good recommendations, mostly from people from USC. I got some deal memos, I think, from some established producers, and all that, helped me, to maintain, the status and get the visa. All of that was connected with USC. All of that, I would say, it was all because of the people that I went to school with.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really cool. So it actually was a great return on investment for you.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's great to hear. That's really great to hear. Mm-hmm. And so what was your first, project that you felt, oh man, I feel I've arrived. I feel with this credit, I'm going to be recognized now, and I want to be able to continue. It's a ladder, obviously, but what was that first one where you felt, oh, I've arrived. I'm now officially a professional, a seasoned professional as a sound designer?
I honestly, I don't know if I ever felt that, or just it's I don't I there I wouldn't say there was a one project that would really do that. The big one was for us. It was still collectively a really important project. Was a movie that was called The Land, and it was basically everybody was from USC. It was the director, writer, the editor, the producer, every single person was from USC, and it was a thing that we were all working on together. Obviously, lots of ups and downs, because there was movie that was had some producers behind, which were the money producers, were not people from USC, because it had a decent budget for that time. But that it ended up being accepted to Sundance, and the whole crew going to Sundance together. It was really, really beautiful. And so that was a big one. It was right after a year after graduating or something. It was a fun project. That was a big one, because we also, it was something that doesn't really happen anymore that much, but we were all in the same facility. We were editing and sound designing, and and it's like a same facility. So it was a very communal experience as well. So that was fun. But you know, I don't know. There was a, then there was a big one too. Was, it was right after graduating, was this experimental thing that USC would do, that there would be a feature-length script that would be directed by, I don't know how many, maybe 9 directors or something, that everyone would do like 10 pages or something like that.
Okay.
And that was also a really good thing, that you're able to, to work on a feature with so many different directors who are all your friends. And basically we were the sound team when we were doing the production sound and the post-production sound and the DPs, and everyone was be the same crew. And then you're just having kind of guest directors, kind of episodic, going into TV. So that was a good experience, especially transitioning from, from school to the real world. It was a really nice, like, transitional film, because it still felt like a film school, but we were already
Wow.
not film school, and it was a real feature, and
Like,
with a real cast. Was
distributed? Did it get?
yeah, it was. Well, it was the thing. It was what we called it, the Franco class. That James Franco, who was teaching at the time there. He would basically develop, the directors would develop the script. To get a workshop thing together. They would cast. So Franco was also in the movie as well, acting. I think that they 2 movies this, and I worked on the second one, which was good because all of those people, but you're already outside of school, and it really helps you to transition. I think it was a pretty good move actually from USC to do that.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome, brother. I could see that, because you said you're connected with DPs, you're connected with directors, you're all working together, and that way, when you go on to your next film, you're already talking about who's going to be working on what with who, or who you're going to ask to come on your team.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. That is really cool. Now you're getting the phone calls, right? Now you're getting the phone calls, and students are asking you, "Hey, I'm coming. I got an internship, and I'm trying to reach out, and just trying to get advice from you." So, can you share a little bit about what kind of advice you would give to students now, or what kind of advice that you currently give them when they're trying to pursue a career in the industry?
Yeah. I mean, it's actually, I more and more often, I'm meeting students or young filmmakers. I would just ask them, to come for lunch, or just do Zoom. We were talking, and my advice is always, it's actually, it's always very difficult for me to give someone advice, because it's so specific for a person. And I'm thinking now, what would I do if I wouldn't go to USC? It totally changed, the path, my career. It really helps me, but my career could have been even better, if I would just be a runner, meet somebody. I know people who were waiting tables, and they met their favorite sound designer, and they just asked them, for a phone number, and they ended up working in a big studio. It's a true story. It just that could happen. So whatever the path is, I think that at the end, it's a marathon, right? The end is always going to be the same. If I know that I'm going this path and I'm not choosing it, but if I'm supposed to, and I hate using win an Oscar, but that is the pinnacle of some success of sound. If I'm supposed to get to that level, it should happen no matter what, right? If you can get lucky with meeting someone, but it's at the end, it's not really a luck. If you're just, consistent, if you're delivering, if you're true to the craft, and if it matters to you, if you work hard, things gonna happen no matter what. I really genuinely believe that. So I would really recommend people to just, it's just be genuine about what they're doing, and be true to the craft. If you're passionate about it, that's the path. I think that when I talk to people, and when I'm being interviewed for jobs, and when I got the interview, I even get the feedback from the people that they just felt that I care, right? And if I get rehired for a thing, it's because I think that people just felt that I care about it. I have a connection, I'm passionate about it, and they feel that there's something, that it's hard to fake, and if you have it and if you care enough and if you're genuine, people recognize that. And that's what matters. When I'm hiring new people, it's obviously going to be always about the craft, and if I'm going to do work. But, even when I talk to people at the USC, when they're admitting people, they're not going to choose the best filmmaker in terms of, they can show you how to do it. They can teach you how to become an amazing filmmaker. They can, but you need to be somehow interesting. You have to be genuine and passionate about it. And that's what matters at the end, right? I feel that especially a lot of young people, the idea of doing it and becoming filmmakers, but you really need to love that to become, I guess, in film school, you feel it, right? There's a lot of people who go there with the idea, they're loving the idea of become a cool director, and doing this like cool shit. But even with USC, which has got one of the highest rates of success, it's still 10%, which is nothing. Just majority of the people that I went to school are not doing it, are not working in movies. And so, and they were good, and some of them are very good, at what they're doing. But you gotta, you just gotta be true to yeah, you cannot fake it. It's just, it's really hard to say that, but you can recognize when someone just really cares, and that's what always matters at the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I agree 110%. It's essentially, it's that same curiosity that got you started in the first place, maintaining that within you as you go through. And the only difference is you're getting paid for it now. But it's still that same person within you that started on this journey.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm genuinely, I am still there, and there are very stressful days sometimes, and the stakes get more higher. But every morning when I go to work, and I am excited. I am really excited for the day. It still excites me. I'm still very passionate about it. I am still driving home and thinking about ideas, right? I'm still watching movies. I'm taking notes. It's still, still keeps me going. And that's something that's really hard to fake, and you feel it. I know people, I work with people who are really good at it, but it's and I can tell that it's not as important to them. I know that, and it's also fine. Not everybody needs to maintain the passion, but to me, it's, if it really matters to you, it's gonna happen. It really is gonna happen.
Right. It's when you're doing your work and you're doing your sound design and you're mixing, then you go home, it doesn't turn off because you're so curious about it that you just want to continue it to evolve and grow, because it's just this part of you that, best way to phrase it, I guess, would be you found the way to authentically express yourself.
Yes.
And you're always going to be continuing to do it because you're just authentically expressing yourself and expanding. And if you're expanding, you feel complete. And if you feel complete, what else is there, brother?
Yep. Exactly.
That's so cool, man. I'm so happy that you found your calling, man. That's very, you mentioned there are a lot of people, and sometimes when you get started, it's that movie Jerry Maguire, right? I don't know if you've seen it, but where he has the scene with Cuba Gooding Jr. He's like, we got to get back to the old Rod that didn't do this for the money. You didn't do this for the money. Right? Yeah, so trying to be the cool kid and stuff like that. But this has been so much fun, man. Is there anything that you want to share that you're working on now that you have to share, or for us to worry about?
No, I hope this can help, some people. Also, if someone, I really connecting with people, I have to meet new people, people are more than happy, to reach out to me, send me an email. Or if everything is on my website, I'll be more than happy, to help anybody if I can. So I guess that's the message,
Right, brother, right on. And love your website, by the way. Super creative.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, super creative. And yep, thank you so much for being on here with us and sharing your story with us, Jan. Look forward to connecting with you in the future to hear more about all the exciting and wonderful things you're doing in sound design.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.